subject of moral relativism, how do you think about that?
This is a great topic to tackle in a longer discussion because it's one of the oldest questions in philosophy. It's an important one, and it takes a little doing. So there are a lot of intellectual puzzles where we just sort of naturally think about it on like a single dimension or as a binary. And if you kind of break it up into multiple dimensions, then you see solutions. So the typical way of thinking about this is morality real? Like, is it a real thing? Like the laws of physics, such that if people are behaving contrary to it, they're wrong, even if they don't know it? Or is morality just, and Herodotus and ancient Greeks, they saw this, like, well, in this country, they kill their parents when they get old, and in this country, they eat pigs, and they could see that practices differed. And so, well, maybe, it's just like language. It's just like whatever happens in your culture. Well, that's what's grammatical. But what I learned in part from Schwader and also reading a lot of philosophy, some of which he guided me to, was I'll put out a couple of concepts. So the first is moral monism versus moral pluralism. So the question isn't, is there moral truth or not? It's, is there one moral truth or multiple? And once you do that, now you've loosened things up. Because a hallmark of my work, and this is where I departed from Rick a bit, is I've always been very influenced by evolutionary psychology as well as anthropology. So we are evolved creatures. We are Homo sapiens, and we are all Homo sapiens, and we are primates, and we have a lot in common with chimpanzees and bonobos. So that's the evolutionary psych. And then there's also the anthropology. We vary. And so when you look around the world, you don't find infinite variation. You find a few major patterns. A wonderful book, Dancing in the Streets, A History of Collective Joy by Barbara Ehrenreich. She says when the European explorers went out in the 16th, 17th century, they found wherever they went, people danced around campfires, had rituals that bonded the group together. They often used psychedelic substances. They had beat-heavy music. So this is human nature. But feudal systems are also pretty common. There are a few major patterns. And so one possibility is there's not just one way of doing things, but it's not anything goes. It's that there are several different sort of grammatical human forms. And this actually became the basis of my major work in psychology, which is moral foundations theory, which is my effort to say, what are the taste buds of the moral sense? Because cuisine varies around the world. You wouldn't say that the French are wrong if they don't cook like the Vietnamese, but I think you could say that the French and the Vietnamese are both much better cooks than the English, or at least, they were historically. It's not that anything goes. There is some truth. But here's where we bring in the second kind of abstract but really powerful concept, which is anthropocentric truth. So that means something can be true relative to to humans, to who we are. So if intelligent aliens come to our solar system, they will find that the Earth is the third planet from the sun. And that was true before we existed, and it'll be true long after we're gone. And they would find that gold is a better conductor of electricity than is aluminum. That was true before we were here. It'll be true, So those are non-anthropocentric truths. There's a fact. And so many people have been on a quest to find what are the moral truths. And so Sam Harris, who for a brief time was my intellectual enemy, we kind of had like a feud for a few years. Now we're friends. We actually like each other quite a lot. But we had kind of a feud over this because he has a whole book, The Landscape of Morality, arguing that moral truths are like the truths of chemistry. And I say, no, they are anthropocentric truths. This is from a philosopher, David Wiggins. There are things that are true because of the creatures we are. So there are things that are beautiful because of our senses. There are things that Shakespeare is a better writer than Kurt Vonnegut. Now, I love reading Kurt Vonnegut. I probably enjoy it more than Shakespeare. But man, I can see, and almost everyone can, Shakespeare is a complete genius at crafting words. Now, it's a fact. If aliens come here from another planet, they're not going to agree because it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't fit with their nature. Anyway, so putting this all together, I think what we can say is there are moral truths and moral orders that are emergent. I am not a relativist. I'm not a monist. I'm a moral pluralist. There are multiple moral truths. And these truths are emergent from human nature interacting as people interact in societies. Okay, wow. I think I just did it.
Oh, it's great.